Good evening and warm welcome to Power News, your window to the power sector. I'm Juhi Rajput. Let's start the bulletin with news of the week. Amid rising losses, the Union Power Ministry has formulated a model State Electricity Distribution Management Responsibility Bill 2013 on the lines of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Act. The bill aims to provide for responsibilities of the state government to ensure a financial and operational turnaround and long-term sustainability of the state-owned distribution licensee. The model bill envisages the state government to submit the electricity distribution management statement on the measures taken in relation to distribution each financial year during the budget session to the legislature. A slew of measures would be in the areas of long-term planning, consumer protection, regulatory compliance, corporate governance and financial restructuring.
What we have to do is improve the financial health of the distribution companies. That is the first thing which has to be done. Rationalize the tariff, remove the cross subsidies, and ensure that they collect what they pay, then only it will be possible for them to purchase the power. Lot of private investment took place in generation sector, capacity addition took place, but because of the poor financial health of the distribution companies, they are not in a position to buy power. So, if we have to service this investment, we have to create that buying capability also.
Moreover, the bill ensures 100% metering and consumer indexing to be achieved within 3 years and the establishment of special courts for settling theft cases within a year. The distribution licensee would have to increase collection efficiency at 1.5% a year if it is between 95% to 99%, at 3% if between 90% and 95%, and at 5% if between 80% and 90%.
The bill tries to build up a comprehensive mechanism that even if there is change in the management or administration or political continuity, the reforms would continue to be there. That's a major initiative which I think would help the sector quite a bit.
According to the model bill, the state government would make a financial restructuring plan or other such schemes a part of the state budget statements for effective monitoring of its impact on the state finances. But experts feel that there is no teeth to the proposed bill as penalties to the state are limited to denial of unallocated quota power.
Because there would be always a local or political compulsion of not making reforms to the extent what they are required. So, to my mind, it's a wonderful thing which is being done. Only thing is that the type of action what is required by the state governments have to be backed by the corresponding penalties which have to be added on to the provisions of the bill.
The government plans to double the penalty on state power distribution companies for overdrawing electricity from the grid ahead of Assembly polls 2014. If the move to ensure grid security is accepted, utilities will shell out up to ₹22 for each unit of overdrawn power. Central Electricity Regulatory Commission has mooted a proposal to impose additional penalties on state distribution companies for frequent overdrawing and generating companies for repeatedly supplying less power. The penalties will double from the present rate as per the Commission's proposed regulations called CERC Regulation 2013.
In order to make the grid secure, especially when the southern grids get connected, Indian grid will be one of the largest in the world anywhere, and in order to have proper discipline, these measures are necessary to bring in the discipline by this, not only the state distribution companies, but also by the generating companies.
Presently, the electricity grid operates in the frequency band of 49.7 Hz to 50.2 Hz, and any level close to the lower and upper limit is considered critical as it becomes vulnerable to collapse. A report on last year's twin grid collapse showed that indiscriminate overdraws by northern states and underdraw by western states were major contributory factors.
Often state transmission utilities, they can buy power from the exchange at lower cost of UI. Those things will be avoided, and they will try to schedule those thermal power stations which are relatively costlier, but it is much lesser than the charge to be paid during the penalty period.
During the election time, state distribution utilities tend to overdraw from grid under political pressure to ensure round-the-clock power supply. The regulator has also proposed to tighten the frequency band to 49.9 Hz to 50.1 Hz to limit deviation by distribution companies and power generating companies from their committed schedules.
Also, the distribution companies will not be allowed to overdraw or underdraw more than 250 megawatt at any point of time.
World over, the grid operates at 50 hertz. And Indian grid also has to come in line with the world practices. The tightening of the band to 49.95 and 50.05 is a very welcome move, and this is necessary for the grid operations, especially when the southern grid also is synchronized.
Currently, the distribution companies and generating companies are asked to pay charges for not sticking to their committed levels of draws and supply. But under the proposed guidelines, it is proposed to discourage such deviations by imposing heavy penalties over and above such changes. Here we'll take a short break, but there is a lot more on the other side. Stay tuned in.
Indian Energy Exchange, India's premier power trading platform.
From manufacturing of energy cables to EHV installations to renewable energy solutions to retail energy products, our technology energizes lives. Rovin, energizing lives.
Power Grid Corporation of India, the central transmission utility, world-class integrated global transmission company with dominant leadership in emerging power market, ensuring reliability, safety and economy. Power Grid, building a smarter grid.
Welcome back. The Central Electricity Regulatory Commission has asked Discoms from 5 states which buy power from the Mundra plants of Tata Power and Adani Power to file their comments on the Deepak Parekh Committee's formula on compensatory tariffs within 3 weeks. The regulator had in 2 separate orders in April given the facility of compensatory tariff to the generators to recover their extra fuel cost following the increase in the Indonesian coal price.
Deepak Parekh Committee has recommended to give gross compensatory tariff of around 56 to 58 paise per kilowatt to Tata's Mundra project. If recommendation of Deepak Parekh Committee is accepted, the effective tariff payable by Discoms would be around Rs 3.02 per kilowatt. While all the concerned Discoms from Maharashtra, Rajasthan, Punjab, Gujarat and Haryana have agreed in principle to abide by the Parekh Committee's recommendation, they have not yet signed the report.
Regulatory Commission did say that there should be a component of compensatory tariff on fuel. It could go up or it could go down. So I think this will go a long way. In the last 2 years, uncertainty in the power sector has created a lot of problem. Gap in policy and gap in response to a change that happens globally or nationally has created a number of disappointments in various sectors, in various groups, among the companies, among the lenders, among the equity providers globally as well as within the country. So I think this recommendation will go a long way. I only hope that the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission takes a quick decision and that is implemented, because these companies have been losing heavily.
Every 10 paisa unit tariff hike will reduce Mundra's ultra mega power project's losses by Rs 250 crore. Unlike Tata Power's Mundra ultra mega power project, Adani Power's plant is based on blended coal. A similar tariff hike will reduce losses by up to Rs 170 crore for Adani Power's Mundra plant.
The only issue which we need to see is, frankly, is whether how will they compensate for the previous 2 or 3 years. We are not seeing the report, so we don't know if they have made any suggestions or recommendations, because you must realize that Mundra is running for last about many years now, about more than a year. So in that period they have suffered heavy losses. So is there any mechanism for covering that loss also? Otherwise they would need to write it off. Now we'll see how CERC reacts to the report and gives the final judgment.
However, these compensatory tariffs are linked to international coal prices and also the revenue generated from coal mines from where these companies have bought stake and source coal to feed the power plants.
Last month, the Parekh panel submitted 2 separate reports for the respective private power producers, but CERC had returned the recommendations because it was not signed by all stakeholders. The states have to get the recommendations approved from their respective cabinets. This is done to prevent any legal hurdles if CERC accepts the recommendations leading to tariff hike. It's time for another short break. Keep watching Power News.
Indian Energy Exchange, India's premier power trading platform. जल से जल तक, मेगावाटर से मेगावाट्स तक, SJVN Limited.
Power Finance Corporation, the most preferred financial institution, providing affordable and competitive products and services with efficient and internationally integrated sourcing. PFC, partnering the reforms in the Indian power sector.
Welcome back. You're watching Power News. In the State Focus segment, today we're going to talk about Karnataka. Karnataka has been facing both peak and energy deficits over the last few years. In the last 8 years, the peak demand deficit grew at CAGR of 20%. The reason for the increasing deficits can be mainly traced to the inability of the state to increase electricity generation and formulate long-term plans.
The state has a total installed capacity of 10,640 megawatt, whereas the production is only about 6,000 megawatt, leaving a yawning gap between demand and availability.
We had some troublesome summer, and the peak demand in this year in the summer was about 18,000 megawatt, 8800 megawatt, and the availability was about 1600. So there was a gap of about 1900 megawatt. But thanks to the good rains, we do not have any problem, and the demand at present is 7300 megawatt. So we are comfortable as of now.
The state is heavily dependent on thermal and hydel power to meet its energy demands. However, thermal power projects have failed to deliver, while the generation at hydel units largely depends on water availability, which in turn hinges on rainfall.
Presently, the installed capacity in the state is about somewhere to the tune of 13,000 megawatt, and there will possibility of adding up almost 9,000 megawatt. So we expect that this will ease up our situation.
State government envisaged adding 4,814 megawatts of power to the power-starved state grid in the next 3 years. This includes 2,300 megawatt from KPCL, 1,401 megawatt from the central generating stations, and 1,113 megawatt from renewable energy sources.
In 2017-18, that we will be requiring some 84,000 million unit power, which is quite a large thing. And as you know, that state is also growing, urbanization, we are also in the forefront of industry. So yes, there will be demand for power, but we are looking at it, and both conventional and non-conventional energy, we are trying to build up on that.
On transmission front, the state Transco KPTCL plans to increase its transmission capacity to 20,336 megawatt by 2015-16 from the existing 14,248 megawatt to meet the increasing demand from Discoms.
So by within this plan period, we want to add up 185 of different KV stations, 210 and all those, and we want to add again 5,065 kilometers of transmission. This is our plan of what we have planned. And we want to again further strengthen the line system, and then the grid, we have to plan well. I mean, that is one issue which we have to have a look at it, that the planning by the KPTCL has to be much better. In the sense, when the power grid comes and they do the this thing, then evacuation by the KPTCL should be done in such a way that they gel together.
In spite of above challenges, some of the state Discoms have done considerably well in terms of AT&C loss reduction and effective implementation of customer grievance redressal system. The AT&C loss level in Bescom has come down to 17% from 34% in the year 2008.
AT&C losses, which takes into account all commercial losses also, those losses we have been able to reduce it to 17% from a hoping 34%. So we have got a low level of T&D AT&C losses. Apart from that, we have got a very good mechanism for consumers to give their complaints, complaint redressal, our contact with the consumers in terms of various media, whether it is Facebook, Twitter, through mails, through our very good consumer grievance redressal system, which is a SMS based feedback system.
RAB-DRP projects are also getting implemented in major towns as per the scheduled plan.
To reform the power scenario in the state of Karnataka, the state government has to work on all the fronts, including generation, transmission and distribution as an integrated approach so that state has sufficient power availability to meet its demand, adequate transmission system to evacuate power from upcoming projects, and develop an efficient and financially strong power distribution utilities. Now let's move to our next segment, Company Focus. Bhoruka Power is the second largest hydropower developer in the state of Karnataka with almost 120 megawatt installed capacity and around 40 megawatt wind power portfolio. To talk in detail about the company's performance and future growth plan, we have with us Mr. S. Chandrasekhar, Managing Director, Bhoruka Power. Mr. Chandrasekhar, Bhoruka Power was primarily involved in the development of small hydro project, but it has also ventured in wind sector. How do you see the growth prospects in both the sectors?
Bhoruka Power, close to 2 decades back, had chosen green energy as the main business line, and we specialized in small hydro projects. Today, we have close to about 110 megawatt of small hydro stations. We have several projects on the Tungabhadra basin, the Kaveri system and the Krishna system. We also have a project in Haryana on the Yamuna branch canal and a small wind farm in Rajasthan. In early 2000, the wind sector picked up and the tariffs as well as the cost of wind generation was such that even as a standalone, wind projects were very fundable and made good business sense. So we started growing in the wind sector, and today our portfolio is 110 megawatt of small hydro and about 40 megawatt on wind.
Well, Bhoruka has been able to secure a leadership position in small hydro segment. Do you also have any plan to venture into conventional fossil fuel sector?
Yeah, when we chose the business line, we decided we'll stick to clean energy technologies. So in that context, I don't think we'll be going for the conventional energy. But having said that, we have got an allotment for a 300 megawatt LNG based power station in the year 2010 or something. We were waiting for the gas to come. Today the gas pipeline is a reality from Dabhol to Biddi, and KPCL is one of the key customers for that. But the price of gas, LNG, is about $14 to $15 per MMBTU, and that will give a price range of 78 rupees per kilowatt hour of power, which is too high for the current grid. We are exploring the possibility whether a peaking power can be sold, and we are discussing with the Regulatory Commission whether some of these projects could be supported by a high peaking power cost. Close to 5,000 megawatt of gas based stations are lying for gas. So essentially for the next few years, we will be growing basically in wind and solar.
Well, coming to the wind sector, to make it more attractive for an investment, do you feel there is any need for an amendment in the policy framework?
There were two issues which were really bothering the wind sector in the last few years. One was the accelerated depreciation provision, which was there earlier and withdrawn in the budget of 2012. Similarly, there was a provision of generation based incentive for wind power at around 50 paise per kilowatt hour, limited to 62 lakhs per megawatt, which was also coming to an end, and it was not renewed on 31st March 2012. But recently, the Government of India, the Cabinet has approved the new GBI policy with an enhanced amount of about 1 crore per megawatt, but keeping the rate of GBI as 50 paise per kilowatt hour. So given these two things, I think wind sector has become a bit more vibrant, I would say, in the last few months. And the matter related to accelerated depreciation has now been referred to a group of ministers, and hopefully some light should come out of it.
Well, in recent years, hydro projects have been facing a lot of challenges, especially after what happened in Uttarakhand. According to you, what should be the way forward for sustainable development of hydro sector?
Supreme Court has already given a recent direction for not giving clearances for major projects in Uttarakhand and Himachal. So under these circumstances, we still require hydropower. So I would think the best option would be the run of the river schemes, maybe 100 megawatt and lesser, without large dams coming up. And many of the small hydro schemes, which itself totals about 10 to 15,000 megawatt in various states of the country, should be fast tracked and the clearances given as fast as possible. But at the same time, we have got a serious issue of forest clearances, as there is also a problem in the forest cover of the country. But we need to match the low cost hydropower in the long run and the environmental issues for the smaller hydro project. And I think the solution lies somewhere in between.
By end of 12th five-year plan, how many megawatts you intend to add to your company's profile?
As far as our growth plans are concerned, we are trying to reach a level of 300 megawatt by the year 2015, 500 megawatt by 2017 and 1000 megawatt by 2020. By 2015, we will have a portfolio of close to 160 megawatt on the hydro and something like 180 megawatt on the wind.
Thanks Mr. Chandrasekhar for joining us on Power News. With this, we come to an end of this edition of Power News. Keep sending us your suggestions and views at info@indianpowernews.com or call us on 011 405 60701. As always, we look forward to your feedback. Do join us next week for more news and updates. Till then, goodbye and take care.